Hi, I'm Karis.
And I'm Caitlin.
Today we're talking about purity culture again.
And that's what happens when church hits the fan. From here on out, we don't talk about fingers and we don't talk about Jonas Brothers.
We can't talk about the Jonas Brothers? I was going to ask...
You did that to yourself.
I was going to ask Brie who her favorite Jonas Brothers were when she was a kid.
Oh.
It couldn't be Kevin, right?
No, it was definitely Nick.
Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely the most popular
Okay.
one.
I for sure thought it would be Joe, because you seem like a you want the lead singer kind of girl, you know?
No, but Nick. Oh,
No,
gosh.
but Nick, yeah.
With
he's
his
a cutie.
acoustic guitar.
And his diabetes.
Yeah. Whenever he announced that he had diabetes, I was like, oh no. But dude, I was such a Nick girl, but then we would play pretend with our friends. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you do need talking to the side,
Well,
not
I'm
the
trying
top.
to, but it keeps bumping into me.
Okay.
Anyways, we would play pretend, and we would have pretend boyfriends naturally, and my best friend, she would, at the time, she's not my best friend now. I shouldn't have said that, but here we are. Anyways, she was like, I call Nick, and so I was okay to opt for Joe, but we always gave Kevin to her little sister. She's like, I always get stuck with Kevin, and I was like, it sucks to suck. You could have Frankie, but
I couldn't take Kevin seriously because I watched 3-2-1 Penguins and all I could think of was Kevin. Like, I was just like, no, I'm not. No.
I feel like that was him, though.
Yeah, it was. It was. So
I look at pictures of him now, and I'm like, why were we trashing on this man so much? And then I see pictures of him back then. I was like, oh,
yeah, I remember why we trashed on him.
This was rightfully he needed that. Oh, so anyway, guys, hi, welcome to. This is more about dating, but it is a part 2, so that's why I named it that. And we have Brie here with us, Brie
Hi.
McCall. Do you prefer Brianna or Brie?
I prefer Brie, but I really don't care.
Okay. It's easier to say Brie than
Yeah, I
Brianna.
did that because people would go Brianna. They get confused. So
It is Brianna, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't think I've ever called you Brianna in my entire life.
That's true. So Brie is a pastor's kid as well, but she grew up in the area where we live now in Tennessee, and we just met her 5 or 6 years ago. So, tell us about just your life as a kid. You don't have to talk about dating yet. But...
Yeah. Life as a kid. Let's see. So my parents were are forever will be worship leaders. So growing up, literally music all the time. In the house, we'd be listening to. That's why I cringe to this day when 2000 and circa Christian music comes on, because I really don't want to go back to it. So
I also cringe, but I just don't like the sound of it.
nope, no movement I'm making. But so I love music, and I don't sing, and I used to play piano. So it's been very heavily involved growing up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And yeah, my parents I think they were not different, but they definitely took what they grew up in, and they kind of grew up more in secular homes. They got saved when they were in high school. And they kind of paved their own journey and path. And mom, to this day, one of the things I really honor about her is that she, everything that she does, she asks Holy Spirit on. And since she didn't have parents who could guide her through this, that's what she's leaned on through her life. And that's what I think really set them apart from what they could have been like. So, yeah, they just tried to love me the best they could. And it was a fun time.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we know your parents and the church that you grew up in, and your church. I mean, I can't speak for it 20 years ago, but I would say that it was a lot less extreme than the environment that we grew up in.
Yeah.
Intense.
Definitely a lot less extreme. However, our church has grown so much. Since I was a child, and the pastors I had as a child pastor, even his theology and him teaching us when we were younger There were some things that I didn't really love, like looking back on, but he's totally a different person now than he was. Like he teaches even now the kids differently than he taught us. And so it's been really cool to see the growth.
That's awesome.
But yeah, definitely grew up differently than you guys, but I still have that same little bit of a foundation about purity culture and other things. So
Yeah, that's awesome. What was I gonna ask? Oh, this is just a random question. Did you have any Christian crushes when you were a kid?
So yeah, I was reading that. I was like, Christian crushes? No, what?
No?
No. Mine were all non-Christian crushes. Like
Secular
like
crushes.
Hannah Montana. And the boys on Hannah Montana.
Oh, so you had a crush on Hannah Montana?
No, I didn't have a crush on Hannah Montana. No,
That's
no.
revealing.
That's revealing.
You really grew up in a non-denominational church.
Yeah, we were really wild. No, is his name like Justin or something? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, the characters on like Hannah Montana.
The one with the blonde hair? Or the one with the dark hair?
The dark hair. Is it like Jesse?
Was it
What's his
Jesse?
name? Jesse? Yeah.
Yeah. I had a crush on him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a crush on Spencer from Good Luck Charlie. I love Spencer.
Oh.
But dude, okay, so
Shane
in the
Harper.
show he cheated on
Charlie.
Teddy.
Teddy.
But apparently they were dating in real life and he cheated on her in real life too. I was
Aw.
like, he done
Dang.
Bridget Midler wrong.
Or Zach and Cody.
Mm.
Also, these were also shows I wasn't really allowed to watch, though. But
Wow.
wow.
So wait, okay. This is a very telling of someone's personality. Which one did you have a crush on, Zach or Cody?
Zach.
Oh, okay.
Tell yours.
I probably had a crush on Zach. I think it was hard to have a crush on Cody when they were 10.
Yeah.
Maybe when they were older, I liked Cody more, like on deck, you know? No.
I was such a Zach girl.
But Zach was short and like, he got a little fat on him.
Even
and
now to this day, I loved it.
I loved it.
I would have hugged every bit of him.
Wow.
But now to this day, I still prefer Dylan over Cole.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. Cole's still a little cringy.
Yeah, his black hair. I'm like, let's not do that.
Plus, he was in Riverdale. So how can you like be attracted to someone who made that choice with their career, you know?
There was one Asian dude in Riverdale. I'm like, yeah, okay. I might watch just for him. But then it
Caitlin
got too crazy, and I was like, whoa.
Caitlin likes Asian boys.
Caitlin likes men.
Facts.
Asian men.
We
I
constantly
don't
are talking
discriminate.
about men.
Yeah. Also, right now, I'm such a Joe Jonas girl.
Yeah. Well, he's single now, so you can be.
Did you hear my stomach?
No.
Okay, good.
Well, now we know. I think I was a Joe Jonas girl, but it was like he's the lead singer, you know? There were at times where I would feel sympathetic for Kevin and I would try to like him, but then I was like, no.
It was a sympathy crush.
Have you ever had one of those? You're like, this guy needs someone to like him, but it's not me. You know?
He's
Yeah.
married to a beautiful
Yeah.
woman, so he won.
He's done much better for his appearance in the last 10 years. I think my Christian celebrity crush would have to be Kirk Cameron. And not in, what's that show that he was in? Growing Pains? No. Left Behind. Did you ever watch
That
Left Behind?
series messed me up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I didn't watch that crap.
I had nightmares after watching that movie.
I've thought about doing a whole episode on rapture anxiety, and I feel like you would be a good person to have.
That's too real right now, Kara. Sorry, we can't touch that subject.
Okay. Anyway, yes, I was traumatized, but he was
but
cute.
at least you got to see Kirk Cameron.
Dude,
Wait. Have you guys seen The Shack?
no, I've never watched it.
But I have seen the Shack Jesus.
Shack Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very we talk about Shack Jesus all the time.
Hold on, I gotta Google it.
Some friends of mine have very close bonds with Shack Jesus, and
Wait, like
Yeah.
legit?
Our friend watched it, and Shack Jesus just came up on the
she's
TV, and she had an
I
actual
can't watch this
reaction.
anymore.
She had a reaction,
And
She
a
was like, "Oh my
reaction in
God."
front of my father, mind you. So even better.
Yeah, she
Oh
had a
my
reaction in
gosh.
front of her dad. It was funny.
It was great.
Is it the kind of Indian looking guy?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you
he's
gotta
got,
find a good picture of him.
Yeah, he's got like curly hair, black.
Like that?
Yeah, but that's a terrible picture.
Yeah,
Oh.
find him like in the actual movie.
Yeah.
Is that Jesus?
Yeah.
I don't think you could pick someone that attractive to play Jesus. Do you guys remember the Son of God movie where
you
everyone
remember-
was talking about Jesus' butt?
Yeah, women were so mad because they made Jesus' butt look so too good. I'm like, first of all, he is a divine person, so
Have you guys ever
and
seen?
a carpenter's son, so he's got to have muscles, okay?
But have you guys ever seen that TikTok? It was like, I feel sorry for the woman in the Bible who had a crush on Jesus and probably got rejected like hardcore.
But in the nicest way.
Maybe he was like, "You are not about my father's business" or something like that.
Or maybe he was like, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Satan's wife. Get him.
Bro.
Wow.
I mean, I used to have a crush on everybody. To be honest, if I would have met Jesus, I might have had a crush on him.
Facts.
You know?
I fell too hard too fast for everything, so.
Yeah.
Show me the slightest bit of affection and I'm yours. So Jesus could like hug me and just like I want to take care of you, and I'm like, really?
Really?
Is this my man in God? And God's like, no, that's your brother.
It's your brother in Christ, Caitlin. Jeez.
That is Christ. So anyway, talking about dating today. We talked about purity culture last week and just purity rings and ceremonies, and apparently we had it way more intense than other people did. Cultish, apparently. Purity cult. And
That's what Brie called it.
Nice.
Mhm.
But today we're talking more about dating and that thing. And I don't know how to. I think me and Brie probably have more experience with the dating part.
I'm not denying that.
I mean, Caitlin, you can definitely still talk about boys.
Bullies or boys?
Boys.
Oh,
I know, I
boys.
didn't really
Same thing.
enunciate that really well.
I could, but there's not much. It's just my perception of them because I never talked to them.
But what you probably can talk about is what you were taught about dating and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, I could.
But
Will
I?
I? So this is for one thing we talked about last week a little bit, and I'll try to be more positive this week because last week I think I was just mad, to be honest. And we talked last week about having like the pressure on women versus men to like stay pure and
Mhm.
stuff like that, because I feel like we probably got more talks about dating and stuff than the boys did. And I know that like their minds work differently and everything, but I feel like there was definitely more. I've never been a boy, but I feel like there was definitely more like emphasis on a girl staying pure, and her purity maybe was more valuable, or I don't know. Do you guys get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Me picking up what I'm putting down. Did you
Yeah.
ever feel that?
Yeah, so I was mentioning to you guys before, I realized I guess I grew up very differently than you all, because actually, if I were to think back on it, that wasn't really the case. And actually probably because my parents were the youth pastors. And when I would step in as a kid to their sessions, dad would harp on the men, a lot. You know, like taking a call up, like, you need to be men and take responsibility. So I actually didn't feel that, which kind of like, I mean, it's good, but nothing great for content, I guess. But but yeah, I didn't feel that because it felt like a mutual, like, with ladies, you have a responsibility in this, but like men also, you do too.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about that? That was one thing we were gonna ask. Dating for you, like as a teenager, what was that like? Like, were there really strict rules? What was like? Did your parents like prepare you for the dating world? Did you have that rule where you had to wait till you were 16 to date someone? All that.
Yeah, so I don't remember mom and dad specifically giving me a year, like an age. They were like, this is when. But if I probably were to go back and ask them, like, hey, was there like a time that you would have let me date? It definitely probably been like 16 or something like that. So let me back up. In middle school, I was actually going through my diaries this morning trying to find it. But in middle school, for some reason, I made my own personal idea of vow, was not pushed on me by church or any. thing to the Lord that I said my middle school years I wasn't going to date a boy. Now, to say it wasn't guy crush crazy and I still thought about them and it was still a wild time, I might as well have dated them. I don't know. Not really. I didn't really hold hands or do anything of that sort.
Wild time.
Wild time.
Her imagination was like, what if we did?
Yeah, what if? Oh my gosh. So middle school, I made that own personal vow in 6th grade, which was I forget that I even did that, and it sounds like really kind of stupid, but
No, that's great. Stupid.
yeah.
What the heck?
And so I didn't date 6th through 8th grade. There was still lots of crazy drama that I thought I was escaping by not dating, but it did not escape. And I didn't have my first boyfriend until 16. My sophomore year of high school was my first boyfriend. So when I was ready to finally date somebody and I brought the idea to my parents, I was eventually 16. So they didn't have they were a little bit hesitant at first.
Mhm.
But I think they've talked about it. They're like, well, honestly, we'd rather you date starting in this household than
Mm.
you going outside of high school and going to college and your first boyfriend being in college away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. That's what we were talking about earlier is we know people who weren't allowed to date until they left the house and then they didn't know how.
Yeah, they weren't trained or taught or
Yeah.
had any help.
Yeah, they
at
didn't
all.
know how to go on a proper date with a boy, be responsible, introduce him to,
Yeah.
hang out in a social setting where it wasn't not awkward, but I don't know. Because then you're an adult and you can do stuff
Yeah,
and you don't know how not to do it and all that stuff.
absolutely. You just kind of went from skip the training wheels and you just went straight to I'm gonna ride a bike.
Right. And then you crashed and burned and
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, and my parents would say the number one thing they did press, they were like, whoever you date, he's meeting your father. So that was one of their big things.
Did he have to ask your dad before he could be your boyfriend?
No, it kind of more we started dating and I was like, hey, you have to meet my dad before we take this really anywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I had a boyfriend who that was a rule. They had to ask dad before we could put it on Instagram, basically. And we would break up so often, and each time we could ask dad if we could get back together, and eventually dad was like, you guys, you don't have to ask me anymore, all right? In fact, I think you guys should just break up, but whatever.
I think this relationship's done.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, if you gotta ask, you're going back for the third time, hey man, can I date your daughter again? Dad's like, why are you not together anymore?
So did we just have this conversation last week?
Yeah, dad should have just been like, no, you can't.
No. Veto.
Well, he was trying to be. We were trying to do it the right way, but we were just dumb, I think, and we didn't know what we wanted. We were 16, so
Yeah, you don't know what you want. It's funny.
Looking back, I'm like, why was I even trying to date? Why is a middle schooler trying to have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Why is a 16-year-old trying to find someone to spend their life with? Caitlin's really the smartest of all of us.
You're killing it.
One boyfriend, and I call him my boyfriend because he was my boyfriend, but I was 15 and I had to wait a year. We did not wait the whole year. We broke up before then, but I consider him my boyfriend. But
Your one ex.
My one ex.
So dating was it sounds like it was a much more healthy subject for you.
Yeah. And apparently, I wish I could bring back these memories, but apparently my parents had lots of talks with me. Not even apparently. I know they did, but could I recount a single one to you? Absolutely not.
So you just weren't listening, or?
I don't know. I think my brain, almost a trauma response. My brain was like, let's just whiteboard this. Let's just erase it from our memories. I don't know. Maybe I was just uncomfortable. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. In terms of our household, dating was fine. It wasn't toxic or whatever, but it was I think it was the church we went to.
The church, yeah.
Yeah, that's where crap kind of started hitting the fan,
And I think that's when church hit the fan. And I think it was it wasn't, it was such a heavy subject.
Yeah.
In our, especially the youth group. It wasn't our church was telling us one thing and our house was telling us another thing. It was no, my parents they gave us a pretty healthy view. No parent is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But then the church was just I remember I actually had to fill out a form. I was a student leader, quote unquote, using air quotes. And every Wednesday night I had to fill out a form telling the youth pastor, every single person I texted that week, and what we talked about.
No.
What?
And so
No, you did not.
No, I'm for real. You didn't know that, Caitlin?
No.
Yeah, it was every week. I was like 14, 15. I was young, and I was like, and I was all on board too. I was like, accountability, yeah, to this 25-year-old guy. Like, what the heck? Anyway, so we had to fill all that out, and then one time we didn't fill it out, and he got really mad, and that's another story. But all that to say, like, I think that, like, they just wanted to be so involved, and that voice was so loud.
Yeah.
You know? And it was like, and me, I was just a little people pleaser, and I was just like, anything that a leader said, I was like, yeah, you know?
You're impressionable too. I mean, you're young. You don't know
Yeah.
any different.
Yeah, like, yeah, I want to do it God's way, but I didn't know that it was not God's way.
You didn't know that was
When you're
not the
that
way.
young, it's so easy to mix up the church's way and God's way. So, like, what the church is telling me, you think, oh, this has to be God's way because it's
Yeah.
the church telling me that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And then
Karis
you get
obviously
trauma.
had a lot more.
I was also a lot more boy crazy. I was like,
That is also very true.
I wanted to learn about dating because that's all I wanted to do was be
Yeah.
around boys. Don't laugh, Caitlin.
Yeah. Well, growing up, I had guy friends.
Uh-huh.
And I would be lying if I said I didn't have a crush on every single one of my guy friends. It was ridiculous. I didn't transition to having friends that were girls until like probably 7th grade.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was really more comfortable and familiar with them, and even to this day, I work in a profession that's male dominant. But yeah, so boy crazy, absolutely, because all of them was like, I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
I would have in my diary that I was like, Lord, take away this feelings that I have for these guys that I just can't stop thinking about. And I had like 3 listed at the bottom. I was like, what the heck? I was like, oh my gosh.
One
so
time I
funny.
got stung by a bee, and I had a guy friend I'm super close with. Love him to death. But he smushed it, and he was like, that's for stinging my friend. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love.
How chivalrous.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
He defends my honor against bugs.
Yeah.
So what was like, did you ever have like the sex talk with your parents, or was it just
Yes.
like little talks over time?
Yeah, it was little talks over time. And that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. I can't remember them. Actually, I may recall one. And I think this wasn't the first one I had. It was somewhere mashed in somewhere. I was sitting on the couch, and mom and dad, they don't start the birds and the bees, thank the Lord, but they do like Adam and Eve. They start talking about Adam and Eve and how like Adam has different parts and Eve, and I don't know. That
Mhm.
it's blurry. It's
Your
fuzzy.
mind was like, we don't want to remember this.
Yeah, we're like, I don't know about that. But yeah, and I told mom one time, I was like, I don't remember you guys having talks with me. And she was like, we had so many talks with you, like throughout
Mhm.
your life, like little, age appropriate ones, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, like I don't remember those at all. So
Yeah.
it's somewhere in there, it's been erased, but they definitely talked about it. You talked about last week my mom's philosophy, but they definitely instilled like sex is good.
Mhm.
Like it's made by the Lord. It's not something to be afraid of, and it's like it has a purpose and design.
Mhm.
And so that's something they always instilled. And I actually had a revelation from Caitlin. I thought that purity culture is what messed me up getting married and like having some mindsets that I had to break, like getting married. And I thought it was due to purity culture, but it was actually just due to the fact that my current husband and I dated for 4 years, and just constantly telling yourself like, no, sex is good, but I can't do it. Like, I can't have this. I can't go there. I can't do that. Like, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, if anybody cares. And so, like, I'm constantly, like, telling myself, like, no, no, no. And so to rewrite, like, the brain thoughts that I had when I got married, like, took a lot. Because for
Yeah.
4 years, I'm telling myself no.
Mhm.
And then now all of a sudden, it's like a flip of the switch. It now magically is okay. You know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily, like, sex is bad. So I
Mhm.
didn't, like, thankfully didn't feel completely, like, shame, like I was in sin,
Mhm.
but I also fully couldn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel weird? Like, I felt this, like, on your wedding night. You go to a hotel with a boy, and then there's, like, you guys are gonna do it. Like, I felt so weird about that. And, like, my parents, like, are hundreds of miles
Yeah.
away, and, like, we're gonna stay the night together. That was weird, right?
Yeah, that was definitely weird. But Karis, if only you could know how weird my first night was. Really, honestly,
I think you've told me actually.
honestly, it's so. I asked Jake. I said, "Hey, Jake, what's some things I can't talk about?" And honestly, he said I could talk about that. He's like, he told me some things I couldn't talk about. So if we want to talk about it, we can. But when we got married, we had to travel to Atlanta,
Mhm.
Georgia, and that's where we stayed at a hotel because we were flying out the next morning.
Mhm.
And so we actually got 2 hours to like talk with one another, like how I felt about the wedding, like how excited we are, and like what people said to us, and we got to like recap the day together and like catch up with one another because you are with one another during your wedding, but like you're also with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
So we got to connect there, but that definitely didn't take away from how scared and nervous I was at all. So yeah, it was weird. For
Yeah.
sure.
This might be too much information, but was that your first time?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, my wedding night was crazy.
Wild.
Tell us about it, Caitlin.
No, it's too much. Sorry, I can't go there. My husband asked me to keep that out of this.
Keep that private.
Sorry.
My
Secretive.
husband asked me when he brought me flowers and chocolate. He asked me.
He also took my wedding ring to go get cleaned and polished.
Sized and
Yeah.
everything.
and add an extra diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we can't go there. And I have to redact his name. He's
Oh, man.
he's like a CIA undercover
Maybe
guy.
Yeah.
maybe next time.
You'll never meet him. You'll never see him, but I know him.
Well, that's so cool. I would love to know what it was like to grow up with a healthy view of sex.
I will say it was great, but it wasn't perfect. I will say those 4 years dating Jake was really hard on me.
Mm.
And I think that has a lot to do with my personality, but also this is my personal recommendation and I feel like everyone should go by it, but I 0 out of 10 recommend if you're a Christian like to date someone for 4 years before getting married. That's just how the circumstances worked out for us because we met senior year of high school and we wanted to wait till I graduated in order to like get
You're saying
married.
not to wait 4 years.
Yeah, don't wait 4 years. I think there's a
Okay.
healthy I think a year is great. I
Mm.
think in a year you can know someone's character well enough. If someone's still fooling you after a year, that's amazing. But you go through
Props to
different.
them.
Yeah, props to freaking them.
They deserve
Oscar.
it.
You definitely have been fooled. Yeah. So yeah, but 4 years is way too long to As what is it? Is it Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, that says something like don't burn with like the lust or whatever. And yeah, so 4 years is a lot. I'm still slowly working out some things that I had to
How long have
rewire.
y'all been married?
So a little over 3 years.
So not even as long.
Yeah, October
Okay.
we'll be married for 4 years.
Okay.
So we'll be married as long as we had dated in October.
So you guys have not even been doing it as long as you weren't doing it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's still like, yeah. What would Caitlin?
What?
What would you say that your like view of dating was? I know that you didn't date a lot, but was dating like a big deal to you? Was it like a shameful thing to you?
It was a big deal. I really like whenever I had that one boyfriend when I was 15, only thing, if I could have wished one thing in the world, it was I was 16, so we actually could date and I could go on a date with him.
Oh.
Because I don't know. Honestly, I'm super thankful for the guy that I was with because he told me I was pretty all the time. He always just like, I just want to be with you and just like shower you with love.
What a sweetie.
And I know. I mean, he did turd things because he was 15, but so.
And his voice cracked every time, but it was still nice to hear.
And I really enjoyed it, like being with him. And he was the funny guy of the whole youth group. And whenever he made people laugh, I felt so proud of him. And I was like, he likes me and I like him. It's great. And so when I was young, I really liked dating. And I was just like, but I wanted it to be like one person that I was like super proud of. So I kind of like held dating as like a precious thing. So if I ever hold out on dating anybody, it's because I hold it probably too much of a high standard because I just like, you know.
Yeah.
And as far as the church, they didn't bother me with it.
So
I didn't really listen to the church about dating. I listened to mom and dad.
Okay. There
Yeah.
you go. Why didn't you slap me in the head and tell me to do that?
I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not as people pleaser as you, so I didn't really care what the church thought. And if they said anything, I had comebacks after comebacks.
Caitlin's like, I defy you.
Yeah. It's like, first of all, you're not my mom. Second of all, you're not my dad. Go jump in a river.
Did you, Brie, whenever like your parents like set out like, okay, this is how we're gonna do things, and don't do this, and this is how you should, blah blah blah. You were a teenager. Did you have any like innate desire to just rebel?
Yeah, I'm so boring. Like, no, I didn't. I didn't, because I think the one thing that my parents taught me, this is non-dating really, that really stuck with me, was that your relationship with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember being in like 4th and 5th grade and hearing his voice, seeing visions, and blah blah blah, right? All these things. And so I had this relationship really young, and since I am a perfectionist, one, I think it has terrible qualities, and two, I think the great quality that I love about it is that from the beginning, my own personal heart, not the church, not my parents, not anybody else, like I wanted to please the Lord from the beginning. And I saw it as an opportunity, like I want to do this because I love you, and not because anyone's forcing me to, and not because blah blah blah. So I didn't like to say that I didn't have a feeling like I want to be rebellious. Yes. There's been times where I'm like, you know, I'm just going to screw it all, guys. We're going to go out, get drunk, get crazy. We're messing our lives up. But those moments are few and far between. And I always go back to like really just getting down to my own heart, is that I want to please the Lord always. So I really didn't have many crazy things like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Again, I just love hearing like the different perspective of it.
Yeah.
And, like a different view.
What about you, Karis?
Yeah, I was about to say. What about you, Karis? How about you?
Oh man. No, I was perfect. No, I did have like, if I sat down and wrote like a list of names of all the boys that I call my boyfriends, it would be like those cartoons where like the scroll just keeps going. And yeah, it wasn't good. I dated 2 guys at our church, and both of them were terrible.
Yeah.
And yeah. Fun fact, Quince is the only boyfriend I've ever had that Caitlin actually liked.
Yeah. From the start, I think it was like his second time coming up to visit us from Corpus Christi, and I told him, I was like, all right, like, you're the best one. Like, out of all the guys she's ever dated, you're the guy I like, or I least like the less. I was like, whatever.
Least hate.
Yeah.
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 There were some guys that were actually like kind of decent. That no, like decent like person.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Not like Caitlin always says that I liked ugly guys.
It's true.
She would just roast them nonstop. And if you're listening, and we've talked before, like romantically, Caitlin has roasted you. 100%.
Sorry, not sorry. Still do.
But decently people. There was a couple of them that, like I'm still friends with, but yeah, I did a lot of crap, and I think it was because, like I said last week on the podcast, everything was shameful.
Yeah.
So if I hold hands with a guy, I might as well just do everything else.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna get in trouble for the smallest thing, I might as well just go for the biggest thing.
No, for sure. In your circumstance, like if the church is like that oppressive and that heavy and weighty, and you're just like, no, like it's so religious and so like here's the rules. Like you're just like, I don't want to do the rules anymore.
Yeah.
And I actually should have listened to your testimony thing, but I didn't hear it, so I don't know. But
that was more about like church stuff I didn't really talk about. But I definitely had like this thing, like I wanted to be liked. Like I loved it when guys were flirting with me or like hitting on me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like and I was already like doing things that were shameful. So if a guy was like into me and stuff, I was like, all right, let's go. You know, you just won yourself a one-way ticket. But yeah, there was a lot of guys, and I got caught. I was not sneaky. You can ask Caitlin. I am the worst liar. I am the worst liar. So I was like, I'm actually this little people pleaser, like little good girl trying to be rebellious, and I got caught all the time. I can't tell you how many times my parents were like, let me go through your phone. And I'm like, oh crap.
Oh,
like
no.
my heart just sank because I knew there was 100 messages in there that could get me grounded. And every single time I got grounded.
They would go through her phone
all the time.
Once every 3 weeks, right? Not allowed to delete messages, not allowed to text after 10. Karis did all that crap. They went through my phone like once every 6 months.
Yeah, like I thought that was so messed up. I was like, Caitlin, like I got older and Caitlin's still a teenager, and I used to hide my phone because I didn't want them to see it and be like, oh yeah, let me go through your phone.
Yeah.
And Caitlin would just like have her phone out, and I'm like, what are you doing? They're gonna go through your phone. And she's like, so?
It's reverse psychology.
And I'm like, they would barely go through her phone, and then I'd be like, she could be talking to boys, and they're like, they would just laugh.
One time, I told my boyfriend, air quotes, that I loved him, right? And I was hiding it from Dad. And he was like, what did you send him? And so I told him. And I didn't get in trouble or anything like that. He was like, you just got to be careful with who you tell you love them. Because he was like, that's a part of your heart that you're just giving away. And he was like, you got to be careful about that.
Yeah.
So I messaged him and I was like, sorry, I didn't mean that.
Sorry. Actually, I take that back.
And he was like, what? And I was like, my dad told me not to tell you. And he was like, what? So you don't love me? And I was like, I really, really, really like you.
Wow. Now, hey, don't get me wrong. We can get into the nitty gritty and dirty if we want to, because I by no means not perfect at all. So there are some. I can tell you some crazy stories. One guy that I never actually dated but wanted to hardcore. I still feel bad about this to this day. I was in high school. There's this guy. I really, really liked him. Like, it was like love at first sight. I saw him and I was like, he is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But he wasn't a Christian. And so I spent the 2 solid years like flirting and like pretending almost like we're dating, but we weren't ever. Like, we never did. I kept telling him, I was like, I just can't be with someone who's not a Christian, because I was like, I need to share that with someone in my life if I'm actually going to get married to them. But he flirted with me. I flirted with him. We acted like we were dating. So I feel like I really messed him up. So that's not really cool. But
that's like the Christian lead on.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely led him on for sure. And I still feel bad about it. So
there was this one dude that I talked to, and again, I talked to him. He wasn't my boyfriend by any means, but we unsavory things that we were doing. But I found out one time that he smoked weed. And of all the crap that we were doing that was sinful, I was like, nope, can't be with you. You smoke weed. And he was like, what the heck? Because I've been telling him for like 2 or 3 weeks how into him I am and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, block him.
Nah, this is it. This is the last straw.
It was so hypocritical of me, though, because we were doing other stuff that was totally bad. And then it's like, oh, you smoke weed.
Oh no.
That's not good for my
That's
image.
a gateway drug. What else do? You do cocaine, heroin? Come on.
I mean,
tell me.
It's okay. And I think that was another issue, is like sexual sin you could hide.
Yeah.
It's very easy to hide. And you could still seem like a very holy person.
Yeah.
But that messes up your image. You find out that someone's dating a guy who smokes marijuana. It's like,
now we're getting into the deep stuff.
I think that was a huge deal with my theology, and what I was taught was the image. Like, what image does it have? You know, if there was any refrain, it was because it messes up your image and what people think of you, or your quote unquote ministry. You know, did you ever hear anything like that, of like, you don't want to mess up your witness or whatever?
I'm sure it's probably been pressed in somewhere. But my parents would try to correct it.
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
I don't know, just the image thing was such a big thing. And what was funny, that's what I was gonna say, was our church, we had so many unplanned pregnancies, and like people getting caught doing stuff. It's just interesting to me because of all of their pressure and stuff. It never worked.
Yeah,
it never
sounds
does.
like, actually, you were saying a lot of unplanned pregnancies. One, maybe because I grew up in the church that I grew up in. I was young, so I don't know. But like, I don't remember many.
Yeah.
There was definitely were some, because of my mom and dad were the youth pastors, so I knew there was a couple. But it seemed like if the way you talk, it seems like there was more promiscuous things that were happening. Even with
on
greater pressure.
Church grounds. Like, I can
on the ground.
I can count, like, I could use up all my fingers on one hand of all the times, like, we're like, oh, so and so got caught. They were, doing it behind like the storage building. I was like, okay, that's just another one to add to the list.
Yeah, and I think it was, again, because everything was shameful, so you might as well just do it
Might
all.
as well go all the way.
Yeah, and it's like, also, it never had anything to do with people's hearts. It was
Yeah.
always physical stuff, and that's not convincing enough. You can't
Mhm.
convince me to go do stuff based on like shame or pressure. You could convince me to want to do it, but there's no actual change there,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
But when you pursue dating and sex and everything from the actual heart of God, then you're like, okay, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think that was the difference
Yeah.
for sure.
The thing I always come back to is just like why do we focus so much on the sin?
Yeah.
Why do we focus so much on the sin? Like why is that the actual, like, why do we make that the spotlight whenever like Jesus isn't the spotlight, or doing things because we love Jesus? Like you said, like you did things because your genuine heart was to please the Lord. Like
Mm-hmm.
why can't we make that the spotlight? But instead, like, you know, like I could have a heart genuinely for the Lord, but I lie one time about something, and then like the spotlight's on the lie.
Right. Yeah.
It's
It's
not
just-
on the redemption and grace of Jesus.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
on how bad you messed up.
Yeah. It's you've got to fix this because you did something bad. Like this is bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we get it. You've said this is bad like 10,000 times.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before on the podcast, but just like the difference between looking at yourself and looking at Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're looking at yourself, I caught myself caught up in this again like this week, is like when you're looking at yourself, you're like, oh crap, I'm not doing enough. Like you read your Bible and like, I'm not measuring up to this. Like you go to pray, you're like, I don't deserve this and stuff, because I'm looking at myself. But when you look at Jesus, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
you know? And that's the way that he wants it. And that's actually like real, true love. But the way that I don't know, I guess sometimes that I've been taught is like, it's all about what you can provide to your relationship with Jesus.
Like
what
your
do
works.
Yeah, what do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
If you don't bring anything to the table, don't come to the table.
Mm.
You know? Anyway, that's off subject. We were talking last week about what was it? The dirty spoons?
Yes.
Yeah, like the analogy of the dirty spoons.
30 spoons in the water or something.
Yeah. Did you ever hear anything about anything like that? Like any illustrated sermons where they crushed a flower or something?
Yes. Actually, me and Jess were just talking about this. I think I heard the dollar bill, like, you know, like you crumple it, dirty it, whatever,
yeah.
like, and nobody, like, I don't know, like wants it, or if you tear it up, it's not like worth its value or something.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I saw one where like it was a flower, and then everyone like went around the room and like crushed it and stuff, and then it was like, does anybody want this? And I was like, no, like look how ugly it is. They're always so dramatic too.
I remember
Very.
one time I was somewhere and they had $100 bill. They had two $100 bills. One was like fresh and clean and crisp, and the other one they like crumbled it up, they spit on it, and they like threw it on the floor and stomped on it. And they're like, now who wants that? And some guy in the audience who was like, it's $100. I want it still. And I was just like, dude, a lesson.
That's
okay?
Jesus.
Yeah, the dollar bill one's a bad one because I think Jess was saying she's heard it twice, like both ways. Like you rip it up, it like, okay, it doesn't hold its value, right? And then like the other guy's like, no, like if you rip it up, spit on it, whatever, like it's $100. Someone's gonna want that $100. It has its value still.
Yeah. And that's Jesus. That one guy is Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what it looks like. It's
I don't
still
care what
$100.
it's got value.
Yeah.
I've also
I
heard
still love it.
the one where like someone has like a glass of water, and then he was like, if everyone took a drink of this, would you still want it?
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, I just want to punch you in the face. First of all, gross. Second of all, gross.
First of all, mono.
And that's why you don't kiss. Bro, we had a girl in our youth group get mono, and she was dating a guy in our youth group, and then they both got mono.
Oop.
And we were like, we know what you guys have been doing.
Obviously.
Can't you get mono though from drinking after someone? Too?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you can. But it was like, it's the kissing.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe you can school us on this. How do you think the church or just like believers can talk about dating and sex in a healthy way?
Yeah. I actually just read a book. I'm going to do a shameless plug here. A book on this last year that really helped me a lot. I think it's called Beautiful Union. I might have messed up the title, by Joshua Butler. It's actually kind of controversial in the Christian community.
Oh, I
Ooh.
like it already.
Ooh. Because he breaks down the whole thing of sex, and he uses the imagery of sex to also parallel with the imagery of like Christ and the Trinity and everything, like husband, wife, and a baby is like the Trinity. So like Father, Son, Holy Spirit, like kind of, or just children, not
Mhm.
just one baby, but children. And then like how he even gets down to like semen and talks
Okay.
about that analogy and like how the seed of it. So a lot of people didn't like that, because it does get a little bit deep like that. But for me, I actually took a picture of something if I needed to read an excerpt. But he goes into how why there's the no's, like why do we not have sex outside marriage? Why do we not have gay and lesbian marriages? Why, like
Mhm.
he breaks it down and how everything that is outside of sex within marriage is against the nature of God.
Mhm.
And so using that principle and what my parents did, like saying like sex is good, it's God's design. He's the one who made it. Like,
Mhm.
and they didn't shy away from the conversation. They brought it up multiple times, talked about it a lot. Do I remember it? No, but obviously it left still a subconscious like um principle inside of me. So growing up, I guess I'll teach my kids that, I mean, number one, like we are saving ourselves not because we're trying to like do the best, be the best, and purity is the number one thing. If you mess up, there's going to be the Lord's grace there. There's going to be redemption there. Like it's not over. There's so
Mhm.
much more after that, right? But we're doing it because we're not doing it for the Lord. We're doing it because we're trying to be images of God and because we want to please like the Lord. And I know that maybe that might sound still a little like still maybe purity culture, so I may be butchering it, but um yeah, just trying to go from the heart of like this is between you and the Lord. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher it, but yeah.
Well, I think the pleasing the Lord thing is good. I mean, you can make it good or bad.
Yeah,
Pleasing the
definitely.
Lord in order to earn something, bad.
Yeah.
Pleasing the Lord because you genuinely love him, like the scripture that says we love because he first loved us. You can't even begin to truly love the Lord and desire to please him until you know how much he's already loved you
Mm-hmm.
and has like fulfilled your desires
Yeah,
and everything. I think that's the difference for sure.
definitely. Yeah, you can definitely use that in a way to also oppress people too.
And which is what people have done. Like you take one scripture and you interpret it two completely different ways.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. I've always wanted to ask you this because again, your mom like talks about I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I really do. But what like when you were a teenager and you were a girl,
Mm-hmm.
you had hormones and
Yeah.
stuff. If you were tempted to do something sexual, what was like how did your parents teach you or how are you taught like how to go away from that or not even go away from that but to like submit it or whatever?
Yeah. So I don't know if my parents like my parents gave me the tools and like maybe the theology and then why we do things and out of like right.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, my so Jess was my accountability partner. So when I messed up, when I had feelings, when things went wrong, when boundaries were crossed, when like literally anything that went wrong,
Mm-hmm.
like I was going to her. So actually she mentored me a lot
Mm-hmm.
on and constantly like she was like the Lord has grace for this. Like yes, we messed up. It's fine. It's good. Like don't live here and live under the shame and whatever. But yeah, so really I actually walked that out with like Holy Spirit and with Jess.
Mm-hmm.
My parents definitely gave me the tools, but they also were like, "We love you. We kind of want to know, but we also don't want to know. Like, can you find an accountability partner that you could openly just discuss these things with, so that you could, if you had questions?" And Jess is much older than not much older. She's older than I am, and had experienced different things. So she actually had experience in some of these areas and really some great tools and like practicalities on like what you should do to avoid this. And me and Jake even one time, like we both went to Jess one time when we had messed up really badly.
Wow.
And we were like we're really upset about this and we don't want to do this anymore, but also like obviously I'm still sexually attracted to this person. I still love this person. Like I want to do it, but we don't want to do it. Like how can we move past it, but how can we do better? And so yeah, Jessica was she taught me a lot of things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe the difference there would be like dealing with things in isolation versus actually having community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had pent all that up and worked it out myself, I don't think I would have gotten to where I was.
You would have been like me. Because there was times where I was like, I did tell people what I was going through or what I was doing or whatever, but it was after I had tortured myself for weeks, after I had just put guilt and shame on myself, you know, and then I was finally like, okay, I can't deal with this on my own.
Yeah.
You know, but if there was like constantly someone that I could talk to without shame and without like worried about like, because there was also for me, there was like, someone's going to tell me I have to break up with this guy. Someone's going to tell me like I mentioned last week, you can't be on the worship team anymore, you know, stuff like that. But without the shame and the pressure and stuff, then maybe that just makes you feel like not alone in that.
Yeah.
And like it's possible.
It's possible. You feel empowered.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And when you feel loved, it's easier to.
Yeah.
What do you think, Caitlin?
It's good stuff. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I need Jess to be my accountability.
Do it. Highly recommend.
Would you be my
accountability partner?
Man, is this your formal invitation to Jess?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll approach her Sunday. Tomorrow.
I'll approach her Sunday.
She's like, yeah, who are you dating? No one.
No one yet. Just wanted to establish.
Oh, she's aware I'm not dating anybody.
You're like, I'll let you know though.
We're like, all right, got a date, Jess. This is when it starts. We held hands. Is that okay?
Is that all right?
Start small.
LOL.
She's like, no. No, Jess is awesome. I guess it's fine that we mention her.
I guess.
I put her in good light.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that rule is really just like. Because when me and Caitlin first started the podcast, we're like, we're not going to crap talk people and like spill the tea, but we're also not going to lie and cover up stuff that people actually did.
Yeah.
You know?
We say we're not going to go out of our way to make you look bad. We're also not going to go out of our way to make you look good either. So
if we've made someone look good on this podcast, they genuinely are good people.
So shout out to Jessica.
Yes. Shout out to Jess.
Shout out.
The last thing I had on my mind, I remembered it from earlier, was talking about like the difference between getting married after 3 months of dating and getting married after 4 years. Like there's got to be a middle ground there.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
Like you need to know that person. You can't just meet them. I know so many people who have like had really bad marriages or even just gotten divorced because they just didn't know the person.
Yeah,
they just got married.
Mm-hmm.
But also, 4 years.
I feel like
4 years.
Yeah.
-10 out of 10. No recommend. No recommend.
Yeah, that sounds like my personal hell.
It was a personal hell.
So sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I think about it, a year sounds good. It was like, yeah, we could go a year, like get engaged at a year and then go from there.
Especially since you're an adult.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't have done that because you were literally a teenager.
Yeah, we met at 17. We were both 17. Yeah, both 17. And then I turned 18. So 17, 18.
Yeah. So there's got to be a middle ground. Like,
yeah, for sure. I was telling Caitlin, I was like, yeah, I definitely recommend not the 3 months. Now, there's people out there, I don't know how they make it work. Thankfully, they make it work. I'm sure it's by the grace of God. They've met 3 months. They get engaged and get married in like 4 months, right?
Yeah,
and
it's got to
works
be
out.
God.
Yeah, it's got to be the Lord or something. Or they have great communication skills. I don't know. But I've seen also that it doesn't work out because you don't know them. You don't know how they handle stress. How do they handle big life events? How do they handle loss? How do they handle like no, you're not probably going to be able to see all of those things in a dating relationship for only like a year or two, but you can see a lot.
Yeah.
In a year or two. By year 2, I felt like I knew how Jake would mostly handle things, right?
Yeah.
Like I would know how if like his grandfather passed away while we were dating and a couple other big life things happened. So I got to see him in his highs and his lows and how he handled like adversity and it was such a big thing to like witness. Like, does he turn to different coping mechanisms if it's like really, really bad? No, he didn't. And so I think giving yourself enough time to experience life together and how that person handles life.
Right. Yeah. And being open to people in your life being like, that person's not for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I've already told Caitlin, I was like, if you ever date a guy that is not good for you, I'm gonna tell you straight up, break up with him.
I'm gonna let you know.
Me and Brie are gonna be like, Caitlin, no, not this one.
I'll be a little more hesitant because I don't like to tell people like what not to do and to do, but marriage is a big deal, so I will let you know.
for sure.
I'll open the door. I'll be like, Caitlin,
Yeah, if
this
Kara
guy's
starts
not
the
good, and
thing-
Bree's gonna be like, and another thing.
Yeah. As soon as Kara says something, I'm like, all right, Brie, Kara said it. Do you agree? And then I'll go to Jess. We're like, Jess, come on,
Jess.
let me know.
Boo.
Yeah. Accountability wise, what do you think?
Cool. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Bree.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
talking
having
about
me.
this. Thank you for living shame free.
Boop, boop.
All right, cool. Well, hopefully this is the last part of purity culture. But remember, guys, this is what happens.
When church is